Smack! The sound of my palm cracking across my sister's face silenced the entire Thanksgiving table. Paige stumbled sideways, caught the edge of her chair with one hip, and went down beside it. Nobody laughed anymore. 30 seconds earlier, she'd been pointing at the stainless steel trash can beside my mother's kitchen island. "That's where beggars like you belong," she'd said, grinning. "Maybe we should move your chair over there." Mom smirked. Dad didn't even put down his fork. "Natalie, don't start," he said. "You always find a way to ruin dinner." That was when the rest of the table laughed. Not everyone loudly. Some gave those nervous little chuckles people use when they know something is cruel but don't want to be the first person to say so. I looked at Paige. My 31-year-old golden child sister, 600,000 followers, a growing lifestyle brand, a mother who treated every sponsored candle she sold like a Nobel Prize, and apparently enough confidence to point at a trash can and tell me where I belonged. So I stood up, walked around the table, and slapped her. Now Paige stared up at me from the floor, with one hand against her cheek. Mom's mouth hung open. Dad had finally stopped eating. I looked from one parent to the other. Anyone else? Nobody said a word. I grabbed my coat and walked out. What I didn't know was that a phone had been recording from the kitchen. By breakfast the next morning, hundreds of thousands of people had watched a carefully edited video showing me standing up and slapping my successful little sister for apparently no reason. Paige's insult was gone. Mom's smirk was gone. Dad blaming me was gone. The video started with me getting out of my chair. Paige thought she had turned me into the villain. Then a photographer I worked with sent me a screenshot from Paige's biggest brand campaign yet. Across one of my commercial interior projects were 3 words, "Designed by Paige Mercer." And when I checked the date attached to that campaign file, my anger went very, very quiet. The brand had started questioning Paige about that project 2 days before Thanksgiving. That was when I realized the trash can wasn't the story. It was the door. And my sister had been hiding something much bigger behind it. 3 hours before I slapped Paige, I had actually considered not going to Thanksgiving. That probably tells you more about my family than the slap does. I was 36 years old, a workplace design lead at Northline Workplace Studio in Columbus. And I had spent 12 years learning how to walk into rooms full of people who disagreed about everything and still leave with a signed plan. Executives wanted prestige. Facilities teams wanted durability. Employees wanted natural light. Finance wanted everything 10% cheaper. I made those interests fit inside one floor plan without letting the building collapse into expensive nonsense. My mother called that drawing offices. Paige called it basically decorating, but corporate. Neither bothered me anymore. Or at least that was what I told myself. By 5 that afternoon, I was standing in Mom and Dad's front hall, holding a bottle of wine I had bought because showing up empty-handed would somehow have become evidence at my trial. Mom opened the door wearing cream cashmere and the expression she reserved for photographs. "You're late." I checked my watch. "I'm 4 minutes early." "You know what I mean?" "I genuinely don't." Her mouth tightened. There it was. Thanksgiving had officially begun. I handed her the wine. She looked at the label. "Oh, this one. It's the one Dad likes." From the living room, Dad called. "Is that Nat?" Mom raised her voice immediately. "Yes. She made it." Made it. As if I had crossed mountain ranges rather than driven 22 minutes. Dad came around the corner and hugged me with one arm. "Good to see you, kid." That was Dad. He could make me feel 8 years old and 36 in the same 4 words. I hugged him back. For one stupid second, I was glad I had come. Then Paige floated into the hallway, holding her phone horizontally. "Wait, do that again." Dad blinked. "Do what?" "The hug. I'm getting little family moments." I looked past her. My cousin Leah had a second phone mounted on a small tripod near the kitchen opening. "You're filming Thanksgiving?" Paige lowered her own phone. "Relax. It's background content." "I am relaxed." "You have your lawyer voice on." "I'm an interior designer." "Exactly. That voice." Leah gave me a small apologetic wave. She did freelance video work, mostly weddings and social media campaigns. I liked Leah. Or I had, until that moment when I realized there were now at least 2 cameras pointed toward my parents' dinner table. Am I signing a release before pie? I asked. Paige rolled her eyes. God, Nat. Mom appeared behind me. Can we have one holiday without you making everything difficult? I smiled at Paige. There. That's the family moment. Make sure you get Mom's good side. Leah coughed into her hand to hide a laugh. Paige didn't. That should have warned me. Instead, I hung up my coat and went into the dining room. The table looked beautiful. It always did. Mom could make resentment look expensive. Gold napkin rings, white china, candles at 3 different heights. A centerpiece Paige had apparently arranged because Mom mentioned it 4 times before we sat down. My place card was near the far end. Paige's was beside Dad. That, too, had been true in one form or another since we were children. I didn't complain. I hadn't needed the best chair since I was 19. What I had wanted, what I hated myself a little for still wanting, was much smaller. For somebody in that house to notice when I brought something valuable before they noticed I had brought an attitude. Dinner started normally enough. Dad carved the turkey. Mom corrected how he carved the turkey. Leah's mother asked about my job. I gave her the short version. We just finished a healthcare administration project downtown. I'm leading a workplace renovation in Cincinnati now. That sounds impressive. It's mostly convincing 12 people that 12 private offices will not fit into space designed for 8. Dad laughed. That's Nat. She's always been good at telling people no. I charge for it now. A few people laughed. Then Paige leaned forward. Well, I've got news too. Of course she did. Mom's face lit before Paige had even finished the sentence. She hasn't announced it yet. I was going to let her tell them. You just did. Mom waved me off. Paige smiled. I'm finalizing a national partnership with Hearth and Harbor. Even I knew the name. They were a mid-market home furnishings company, with stores across several states and a huge online business. Leah's mother gasped. Paige. Dad put down his fork. That's the big one? Paige nodded. Potentially. It's a whole transformation campaign. Video, room concepts, product integration. If it goes right, it could be 18 months. Mom actually clapped. I meant it when I said, "That's big. Congratulations." Paige looked at me for half a second as though she had expected something else. Then she smiled. Thanks. I should have left the moment there. Instead, one of my uncles asked, So are you actually designing the rooms now? Or are you showing the products? Paige took a sip of wine. A little of both. I've been doing design work for years. People just know me more for the videos. My fork stopped against the plate. Not because the statement was completely false. That would have been easier. Paige had a good eye. She could style a room beautifully. She understood color and camera composition. She had done several small residential projects herself. But design work for years was one of those phrases that could stretch until it covered a lot of other people's labor, including mine. Mom looked at me. I caught it. A quick glance. Nothing more. Then she said, Paige has always been creative. I took another bite of turkey. No trial tonight, I told myself. No spreadsheets. No old arguments. Dad asked Paige what the campaign would include. She launched into a description of signature transformations. Then she said something that made me look up. We're pulling from some of our earlier design work too. Our. Not my. Not hers. Our. Paige had used that word before. Usually, when she wanted the polish of my expertise without the inconvenience of saying where it came from. I wiped my mouth. What earlier work? Her smile held. You know, things we've done. We've done? Mom exhaled. Oh, Natalie. What? You know what she means. No, I know what the word means. I'm asking which projects. Paige laughed. See? This. Everything becomes an interrogation with you. Then answer the easy question. Dad lifted one hand. Nat. I looked at him. He gave me that expression. Not angry. Worse. Tired before I had even done anything. I knew that expression better than my own handwriting. It meant, you can handle being the reasonable one. So please do it again. I leaned back. Fine. Paige smiled. Victory by exhaustion. That was another family tradition. Dinner moved on. For 10 minutes. Maybe 12. Then one of Paige's friends, I never caught her name, asked me if I planned to start my own firm. Maybe someday. Paige cut in. She likes stability. I like health insurance. Same thing. Her friend laughed. I shrugged. I also like clients who pay me. Paige's eyes sharpened. Was that supposed to mean something? It meant exactly what I said. Mom said my name under her breath. Natalie. There it was again. The warning before the crime. Paige leaned back in her chair. You know, for somebody who acts so superior about having a real career, you complain about money a lot. I stared at her. When have I complained to you about money? Last month, you said your rent went up. I said everybody's rent went up. You literally said you were tired of paying for everything. That was after you asked me to front the deposit for Mom's anniversary dinner. Mom's fork stopped. Paige smiled. Not a warm smile. A camera smile. God. Nat. Nobody asked you to beg. I didn't. You kind of always sound like you are. Someone made that tiny nervous laugh. The kind that tells a cruel person they still have the room. Paige turned in her chair and pointed toward the stainless steel trash can beside the island. That's where beggars like you belong. She laughed. Maybe we should move your chair over there. Mom smirked. Not a nervous twitch. Not something I could explain away later. A smirk. Dad looked down at his plate. Natalie, don't start. You always find a way to ruin dinner. And then the table laughed. I wish I could tell you something noble happened inside me. A great realization. A calm speech forming. It didn't. Something went still. That was all. I set down my napkin. Stood. Walked around the table. Paige's smile lasted until I reached her chair. Then came the sound. Smack. Afterward, the room seemed enormous. Paige was on the floor. Mom had gone white. Dad stared at me. I looked at all of them. Anyone else? Nothing. Not one laugh. Not one clever line. I picked up my purse. As I turned toward the hallway, something caught my eye. The phone on Leah's tripod. Still pointed at the table. And beside it, Paige. Looking at the camera before she looked at me. I remembered that later. At the time, I only wanted out. I got my coat myself. Nobody followed me. Not Mom. Not Dad. Not Paige, obviously. I sat behind the wheel with the engine off. 1 minute passed. Then 2. By 3, I hated myself for counting. When I was 11, Dad used to come after me when I stormed out to the porch. He would sit beside me and say, "You done setting the world on fire?" I would say no. He would wait anyway. At 36, I sat in his driveway waiting for a door that never opened. My phone buzzed. Mom, you humiliated this entire family. Then Dad, you need to apologize before this gets worse. I stared at both messages. My fingers moved before the ache in my chest could catch up. Put anything you want to say in writing. I'm not taking calls tonight. Mom started typing. Stopped. Started again. I switched the phone to Do Not Disturb and drove home. The next morning, Paige made sure, worse, arrived before coffee. I had barely put water into the kettle when my phone began lighting up. Texts. Tags. 2 missed calls from coworkers. A message from a college friend I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. Please tell me there's context to this. I didn't need to ask what she meant. Paige's post had already crossed 200,000 views. The clip lasted 19 seconds. It began with me pushing back my chair. No trash can comment. No laughter. No Mom smirking. No Dad telling me not to ruin dinner. Just me standing. Walking toward Paige. The slap. Then Paige falling out of frame. Caption. When your older sister can't stand seeing you happy. Family jealousy is real. I watched it once. Only once. My first instinct was to comment. My second was to burn the comment section to the ground. I typed. Interesting edit. Want to post the 30 seconds before this? My thumb hovered over send. Then I deleted it. Paige owned that page. Her audience. Her framing. Her cut. I had spent 12 years in meetings learning that when somebody controls the presentation, arguing with the slide is usually less useful than finding the source file. So I screen recorded the post. Saved the caption. Took screenshots of the upload time and visible view count. Then I opened a folder on my laptop and named it Thanksgiving. Original context. My phone rang again. This time it was my manager, Claire. Please tell me you're not calling about my Thanksgiving. I was hoping not to. I closed my eyes. What happened? A client recognized you. Of course they did. They asked whether there was anything we needed to know. There isn't. It's a family dispute. It won't enter client work. If anyone contacts Northline about it, forward it to me and HR. Claire was quiet. You okay? Ask me when I've had coffee. That bad. I slapped my sister at Thanksgiving and became content before breakfast. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. She let it go. I'll forward anything work-related. Thanks. Nothing more. No rescue. I didn't need one. I poured my coffee. My phone buzzed again. This time the name on the screen was Rena Shah. Rena had photographed 6 of my commercial projects over the years. She was meticulous, expensive, and incapable of sending a message without a reason. Her text said, Nat, I need you to look at something that has nothing to do with Thanksgiving. Underneath was an image. I opened it. A campaign presentation. Hearth and Harbor logo in the corner. Paige's name across the top. And filling most of the slide was a photograph I knew better than my own living room. Alder. Finch. A regional healthcare administration office I had spent 9 months redesigning. The curved reception desk. The walnut slat wall. The suspended lighting grid we had revised 6 times because the original ceiling plan was wrong. My project. Rena's photograph. Paige's name. Beneath the image. Paige Mercier design. Transformation. I put down my coffee. Slowly. Rena sent another message. Did you authorize this? I called her. She answered on the second ring. Please tell me I'm missing something. You're not missing anything. So, this isn't hers? She helped style the reveal day. Pillows. Plants. Some accessories. She shot a reel there because the client liked her account. Did she design it? No. Did you give her permission to use it in paid national advertising? No. Rena Sihil. Okay. That one word cooled me faster than sympathy would have. I turned toward my laptop. Alder and Finch. Final concept should be R7. You remember? The revision. I remember all my revisions. Rena laughed once. Of course you do. My family had mocked me for that for years. Receipt girl. Spreadsheet brain. The woman who could turn brunch into an audit. I opened Northline's archive. AF. Lobby. Concept. R7. N. Mercer. PDF. There it was. My initials. My revision. My client approval date. I opened the campaign screenshot again. The photograph had been cropped tight enough to remove the project title plaque visible in Rena's original image. I leaned closer. Not angry now. Interested. That was worse for Paige. Rena, where did you get this? A contact at Hearth and Harbor reached out because they were verifying image rights. When? Pause. Tuesday. My hand stopped over the keyboard. Tuesday? Yes. Thanksgiving had been Thursday. Why were they verifying rights? They're doing due diligence before launch. They wanted to know whether the photography could be used in national digital ads. Did they ask about Paige? They asked who commissioned the photographs and who held the usage rights. I answered what I could. I looked at the viral clip still paused on my phone. Paige on the floor. Me standing above her. A story with its beginning cut off. Send me whatever you're allowed to send me. I will. And preserve the originals. Already done. That was why I liked Rena. She didn't tell me what to feel. She handed me facts. I spent the next hour doing what I did when a project went wrong. Not panicking. Building a sequence. Alder. Finch. Who designed what? Who approved what? Who photographed what? What permission had been given? I found an email from 2 years earlier. Paige, can I film a reel at the reveal? It'll be good exposure for you. My reply. Client approved social content only. Coordinate image use with Rena. No paid campaign use without separate permission. Below that, Paige had replied with a heart emoji. I stared at it. Then another email. Paige, you saved this whole room. I never would have gotten that reception wall to work. I added both to a folder. Not because either one magically proved everything. Because dates mattered. Words mattered. Patterns mattered. At 10:17, the family group chat woke up. Paige, I'm not discussing work with someone who attacked me. Mom, drop this before you ruin your sister's biggest opportunity. Dad, Everybody needs to cool down. I read Mom's message twice. Then typed, "Why are you talking about Paige's campaign when I asked why my project is in her deck?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Paige answered instead. "You gave me everything I used." I leaned back. There it was. Not "I designed it." Not "You're wrong." Not even "We worked on it together." "You gave me everything I used." I typed, "Do not use my name, my work, my project images, or any statement attributed to me in a public explanation without my written permission. Any discussion about the projects stays in writing." Mom called immediately. I let it ring. Dad called. I let that ring too. Written meant written. For once, I wanted a family argument that couldn't change shape the next morning. I went back to Alder and Finch. Then I created a simple table. Project. What I did. What Paige did. What permission I gave. What she is claiming now. One project. That was all. I wasn't going to turn 36 years of resentment into evidence. I didn't need 36 years. I needed the truth about what was happening now. At 11:42, Rena forwarded the material she could legally share. The Hearth and Harbor inquiry had arrived Tuesday afternoon. The brand had not merely asked about photo dimensions. They had asked for confirmation of usage rights connected to a campaign featuring Paige Mercer-designed spaces. I read that phrase 3 times. Then I opened the metadata on the campaign preview Rena had sent. The file itself had been generated 9 days before Thanksgiving. Paige had known this campaign depended on old project work before she ever sat across from me at that table. And somebody at Hearth and Harbor had started asking questions 48 hours before she pointed at a trash can and called me a beggar. I looked at the Thanksgiving clip again. Its 19 carefully selected seconds. The perfect victim. The angry older sister. The neat little story. All morning I had been asking myself why Paige had edited Thanksgiving to make me look jealous. By noon, I had a better question. What exactly had Hearth and Harbor asked my sister before she ever pointed at that trash can? By 1 o'clock, I had stopped looking at Paige's post entirely. The comments were still multiplying. Friends of friends were tagging people. Someone had apparently decided my face needed to be freeze-framed and turned into a reaction meme. Claire forwarded one message from a client with a simple note asking whether Northline wanted to respond publicly. My answer was no. Paige understood audiences. She knew how quickly outrage burned and how badly people wanted a simple villain. Trying to outtalk her in that arena would only give her more clips. Files were different. Files did not care who had more followers. At the office, Alder and Finch sat open on my second monitor, while my current Cincinnati project filled the first. A junior designer stopped beside my desk and pointed at a conference room layout. Did the client approve the smaller table? Not yet. But they said they liked it. They liked it verbally. He gave me a look. So that means no? That means it becomes yes when they put it in writing. He grinned. Receipt girl. The phrase landed harder than he intended. My mother had called me versions of that for years. Receipt girl. Spreadsheet brain. The sister who needed everything documented. Paige used to laugh whenever I saved text threads or named project folders by revision. You act like somebody's going to put our lives under audit someday. Back then, I usually told her, somebody should. Now an old Alder and Finch concept file sat on my screen with a naming convention so boring nobody in my family had ever respected it enough to notice. The curved reception wall appeared in revision 3. Paige had not visited the site until after revision 6. That mattered. A lot. Not because a revision code was magical proof of ownership. It wasn't. Projects were collaborative. Clients changed things. Architects changed things. Contractors suggested things. Vendors solved problems nobody else saw coming. But chronology told you who was in the room when decisions happened. The version Paige had used in her Hearth and Harbor deck contained an image from the completed reception area. I enlarged the screenshot Rena had sent. The crop was tighter than her original photograph. Then something caught my eye in the lower right corner. A pale gray sliver. I zoomed in. Part of the original presentation plaque had survived the crop, only a few letters, but I knew the template. Northline used the same project label system on every final deliverable. My own initials would have been on the full board. Paige had cut away nearly all of it. Nearly. A message from Rena came in. I can meet after 2 if you want to review the release language. I grabbed my notebook. Yes. But I want scope, not conclusions. Tell me exactly what you licensed and nothing more. Her reply came almost immediately. That is exactly what I was planning to do. Good. Because I did not need anyone deciding for me that Paige had committed some grand, professional crime. I needed to know what was true, what I could prove, and what I was merely angry enough to believe. Those were not the same thing. Rena chose a coffee shop 3 blocks from her studio. She arrived carrying a tablet and 1 paper folder. You look terrible, she said. So do you. I slept. Show off. That got the smallest smile out of her. She ordered tea. I got coffee I did not need. Once we sat down, she turned the tablet toward me. Alder and Finch commissioned the photography, she said. My agreement allowed them internal use, portfolio use, editorial use, and approved social media use. You had separate permission from the client for Paige to shoot her reel. Correct. Rena tapped the screen. My images were not licensed to Paige for paid national advertising. Could Hearth and Harbor have licensed them separately? They could have asked. Did they? They contacted me Tuesday. There it was again. Tuesday. 2 days before Thanksgiving. What exactly did they ask? Rena opened the email. The brand representative had written politely. They were preparing final campaign materials and wanted to confirm image provenance and usage rights for several projects attributed to Paige. Several. My hand tightened around my coffee cup. How many? They only asked me about images I shot. Which means Alder and Finch, Mercer Kitchen, and Northline Wellness. The third name hit differently. Northline Wellness? Rena nodded. You didn't know? No. Northline Wellness had been a tenant renovation for a regional medical services group. I had led the interior package. Paige had attended the opening because I invited her. She had filmed a short before and after reel. I remembered helping her get the building owner's approval because she kept complaining that commercial spaces were impossible to access for content. My coffee suddenly tasted burnt. Did you answer them? I told them who commissioned the photos and what rights I had granted. Nothing about who designed the spaces. Good. Her eyebrows lifted. You sound disappointed. I'm trying very hard not to sound delighted that everybody else respects scope. Rena leaned back. Nat? I know. No, you don't. You're running fast. I run fast. You also miss turns when you do. That irritated me because it was accurate. A breath went in through my nose and came out slowly. What can you actually confirm? She folded her hands over the folder. I can confirm I photographed Alder and Finch for Northline and the client. I can confirm Paige had social access during the reveal. I can confirm I never granted her a national advertising license for my images. I can confirm Hearth and Harbor contacted me Tuesday about rights. Can you confirm Paige told them she designed it? No. Exactly. Rena pushed the paper folder toward me. Copies of the relevant releases. Not the whole job file. Just what involves me. That was why she was useful. She gave me a piece of the truth and refused to pretend it was the whole thing. Preserve your originals, I said. I already did. And the Hearth and Harbor email. Archived. Thank you. She studied me for a second. You're not going online with this, are you? Not yet. That sounded ominous. It sounded restrained. For you, maybe. My mouth almost curved. Then the name Mercer Kitchen pulled me backward 5 years. Not all the way. Just far enough to remember how the line had first started moving. Paige had been living in a rental townhouse then, newly divorced from a man none of us missed, and determined to turn her social media account into a real business. She called me one Friday night because she hated her kitchen. Not the cabinets. Not the counters. The whole energy, she said. I told her energy was not a measurable design problem. She told me to stop being irritating and come over. So I did. I shifted the dining zone 6 feet, changed the light temperature, pulled the rug she had bought because it photographed yellow, replaced 2 open shelves with closed storage, and drew a little banquette concept on the back of a grocery receipt. Paige watched me work. You see things I don't. That's why people pay me. Good thing I'm your sister. There had been a grin in her voice when she said it. At the time, I grinned back. That was the part that still irritated me most. Not that she asked, that I liked being asked. For 3 weeks, my phone became her unofficial design hotline. Cabinet hardware, paint undertones, chair heights, whether brass and black could live in the same room without fighting. Then Paige filmed the finished kitchen. The reel did well, very well. A local home brand reposted it. Her follower count jumped. Caption: "Finally, trusted my own eye, and made this place feel like me." No mention of my sketches. No mention of my layout. I called her. "You forgot somebody." She laughed. "Oh my God. Nat, do you need a credit for moving a table? You know that's not what I did. It's Instagram, not an architecture journal. You asked me for 3 weeks of work. I asked my sister for advice." There it was, that elastic little word. Advice. It could stretch over hours. Expertise, deliverables, revisions, contacts, and favors, until none of them looked like labor anymore. Mom called me the next day. Not to ask what happened. To tell me I was making Paige feel guilty during the first exciting thing she had built for herself. "Why do you need applause for everything?" she asked. "I don't need applause." "Then let her have this." That phrase followed me for years. Let her have this. As if Paige's success was always a room with only one chair. The maddening part was that Paige apologized later. Not publicly. Not specifically. She brought Thai food to my apartment, sat cross-legged on my floor, and said, "You know you're the only person who actually gets how my brain works." Then she hugged me. I complained. She teased me. We watched a terrible movie, and the next time she asked for help, I helped. That was the piece of the story I could not blame on anybody else. I had objected. I had known. And then I had let affection close the file. Back in the coffee shop, Rena touched the table once. "You went somewhere." 5 years ago. Useful trip. Unfortunately, the first thing Paige had borrowed was not a kitchen. It was my willingness to complain in private and keep helping in public. That realization followed me all the way back to Northline. By late afternoon, Hearth and Harbor had answered the email I sent from my personal account. The wording was careful, professional, not accusing anyone. I had identified myself, explained that one of the projects appearing in a campaign preview seemed to be work I had led through Northline, and asked what attribution had been supplied. Their brand partnerships manager, Dana Reeves, asked whether I could speak for 15 minutes. I closed my office door before calling. "This isn't a formal investigation," Dana said after introductions. "We're trying to reconcile project attribution before launch." Understood. Miss Mercer supplied a portfolio that included several spaces described as her design work or creative direction. "Which ones involve me?" "I'd rather ask you first what your role was in Alder and Finch." Good answer. She did not feed me Paige's version. I was the workplace design lead through Northline. I developed the interior concept, coordinated revisions with the client, worked with the architectural team, and carried the project through approval. Paige attended the reveal and helped style some accessories for social content. "Did you collaborate creatively?" "That depends what you mean by collaborate." Dana paused. "What would you call it?" On that project, Paige styled the reveal and created content afterward. She did not lead the design. A keyboard clicked faintly on Dana's end. "What about Mercer Kitchen?" "That one was genuine collaboration." Another pause. "Can you explain?" "It was a private family renovation. I developed the layout and several design decisions. Paige chose finishes, decor, and styling. Calling that collaborative would be fair." "And Hartford Loft?" "That was mostly Paige. She asked me about one furniture arrangement. I wouldn't claim meaningful design authorship." The silence that followed was brief, but it mattered. "You're distinguishing among them," Dana said. "I'm not interested in taking her work. I'm interested in keeping mine." More typing. Then she asked, "Are you saying you did not collaborate on Alder and Finch in the way represented to us?" There it was. A sentence I could have answered emotionally. Instead, I looked at my screen. Rena's release. Northline's project archive. My client approval trail. Facts. "No," I said. "Not in the way you just described." Dana thanked me. Before ending the call, I asked one question. "When did you first ask Paige for clarification about Alder and Finch?" I need to be careful about sharing correspondence. Of course. I can tell you we requested additional attribution information earlier this week. Tuesday. A beat. Yes, that was enough. No grand revelation. Just a date. A date that refused to fit Paige's public story. By 6, Mom had sent 4 messages asking me to call. Dad had sent 2. I answered neither. At 6:20, Claire messaged that 2 people were waiting in the lobby. My parents. Of course. Walking downstairs, I found Mom in a camel coat and Dad beside her, with both hands in his pockets. "You're not supposed to show up at my workplace," I said. Mom's chin lifted. "We're not making a scene." Excellent. Then leaving should be easy. Dad stepped forward. "Can we get coffee?" Everything in me wanted to say no. Another part wanted answers while their nerves were fresh. "Across the street," I said. 10 minutes. Mom looked offended by the time limit. That made me feel better than it should have. We took a corner table. She started before anyone sat properly. "Paige finally has something that could change her life. You crossed town to tell me something I already know? She has worked for this. So have I. This is exactly what I mean." Mom pressed her fingertips to her forehead. "Everything has to become a competition." Dad gave me a tired look. "Nat, your sister's campaign is being held up." The sentence settled between us. I had never told them the campaign was being held up. By whom? Dad glanced at Mom. Mom answered too quickly. "The brand." "How do you know?" "Paige told us." "What did she say?" "That they're nitpicking everything. Photos, credits, who did what, all of it." My pulse slowed. Not raced. Slowed. The clearer something became, the calmer I got. "Before or after Thanksgiving?" Mom's mouth tightened. "What difference does that make?" "All the difference." Dad leaned forward. "Can we not turn this into one of your cross-examinations?" "It's 3 questions." "Nat." "No. You came to my job. You brought up her campaign. So, answer me. Did Paige tell you before Thanksgiving that Hearth and Harbor was asking about her credits?" Mom looked away toward the window. Dad rubbed his jaw. Neither answer was an answer. Which made it one. Mom finally said. "She said the brand was making things unnecessarily difficult." "When?" "I don't remember." "You remember enough to drive here." Her eyes snapped back to mine. "You really want to destroy this for her?" "That's not what I asked." "You slapped her in front of everyone, and now you're contacting her business partners." "I contacted a company using my work." "It's 1 room." Dad's words surprised me more than Mom's. I turned to him. "1 room?" He shifted. "You know what I mean." "No." "Explain it." "It's 1 project. You have a whole career." The old family math. Paige needed something. Therefore, whatever I had became excess. 1 chair. 1 opportunity. 1 credit. 1 room. Then removing 1 project from her campaign should be easy. Neither of them spoke. That silence did more than any confession could have. Mom recovered first. "Why do you always have to push until somebody gets hurt?" I almost laughed. Paige pointed at a trash can and called me a beggar in front of a room full of people. "And you hit her." "You keep bringing me back to the second half of the sentence." Dad lowered his voice. "We're not saying Paige was right. You're just asking me to behave as if she was." "That's not fair. Neither is using my work because she needs it more." Mom shoved her chair back slightly. "Nobody is stealing your career." "Then stop asking me to give pieces of it away." Her face changed. "Not much." A small hardening around the mouth. "You don't understand how much this campaign means." "No. I understand exactly how much it means. That's why I want to know why she used something she couldn't properly claim." "She has always credited you." The words came out so quickly that I almost missed them. I stared at her. "Always?" Mom blinked. Dad looked down. "That was interesting. Very interesting." "She says you 2 collaborated," Mom corrected. "Those are not the same statement." "You're splitting hairs." "I make a living splitting hairs that turn into contract problems." Dad stood. "We should go." Mom looked at him, then at me. For once, I did not chase the conversation. "Good." She rose. Before leaving, she leaned closer. "You've always been stronger than Paige." There it was. The old compliment, with the hook hidden inside it. You can survive being generous. Something inside me tightened. Not enough to make me flinch. Being strong doesn't make my work free. Mom stared at me for a long second. Then she walked out. Dad paused. He seemed ready to say something. Whatever it was never arrived. He followed her. Back upstairs, the project matrix waited on my screen. I added Mercer Kitchen. Then, Hartford, Loft. Then, Northline Wellness. Not because I wanted more ammunition. Because Paige's campaign had already made the question larger than Alder and Finch. For each project, I forced myself to write the truth even when the truth helped her. Mercer Kitchen. Shared. Hartford Loft. Paige led. Alder and Finch. Northline and me. Northline Wellness. Northline and me. Paige had talent. That mattered. If she had been completely fake, this would have been easy. She wasn't. She had taken a real ability to style, package, and communicate spaces, and slowly let the audience believe that ability included work she had not done. Probably because nobody in our house ever forced her to say exactly where her contribution ended. An old email appeared when I searched the Mercer Kitchen folder. 8 months earlier, Paige had been preparing a portfolio refresh. Don't worry. I always say we collaborated. At the time, I had replied with a thumbs up. Now, I opened the Hearth and Harbor preview again. Alder and Finch was not labeled collaboration. Neither was Northline Wellness. Both were presented beneath Paige's brand identity, as transformations she had led. Words changed when money entered the room. By 9 that night, the house was quiet enough that the refrigerator sounded loud. My phone sat face down on the counter. Mom had sent one more message. You're making this much bigger than it needs to be. I ignored it. Instead, I opened a new email to her. One sentence. Did Paige tell you before Thanksgiving that Hearth and Harbor was questioning her project credits? No accusation. No speech. Just a question. The reply took 11 minutes. She said they were making things difficult. We were trying to get through one normal holiday without you turning everything into a trial. I read it once. Then again. The words rearranged Thanksgiving in my head. Mom had known Paige was under pressure about the campaign. Maybe not every detail. Maybe not exactly which projects. But enough to know the brand was asking questions. Enough that "don't start" had not been random irritation. Enough that when Paige mocked me at the table, Mom's first instinct had been to protect the atmosphere around Paige, not the person being humiliated in front of her. The camera. The campaign. Tuesday. Thursday. Friday morning. Paige's clip had made me look like the beginning of the problem. But she had been answering questions about my work 48 hours before I ever stood up from that table. The next morning, I sent Leah one message. Not an accusation. Not a threat. Just a request. You were recording Thanksgiving. Please preserve the original file and any edit instructions connected to the clip Paige posted. I'm not asking you to choose sides. I'm asking you not to delete anything. The message showed as delivered. No reply. That bothered me more than I wanted it to. Leah and I had never been close enough to call each other at 3 in the morning, but she had always been the cousin who noticed when everyone else was pretending not to notice. At weddings, she was the one who quietly moved a chair instead of laughing when somebody got excluded. At my grandmother's funeral, she had brought me coffee without asking whether I wanted to talk about it. Now she had been holding the camera when Paige turned Thanksgiving into content. And she was saying nothing. By 10, Paige had posted another story. No names this time. Just white text over a beige background. Some people would rather destroy family than admit they're jealous. I took a screenshot. Saved the timestamp. Closed the app. 5 years earlier, I would have written 3 paragraphs before breakfast. That morning, I opened the project matrix instead. Alder and Finch. Mercer Kitchen. Hartford Loft. Northline Wellness. 4 projects. 4 different truths. That mattered. Paige had done real work on some of them. If I started calling everything theft because I was furious, I would weaken the places where the record was clear. Alder and Finch had my fingerprints all over it. Not literally. Professionally. Every major design decision appeared in dated files before Paige ever walked into the finished space. Northline Wellness was almost cleaner. The client approvals, vendor correspondence, and internal schedules all ran through Northline. Paige had received permission to film the finished space for social media after the client opening. That was it? Mercer Kitchen belonged in the gray. Hartford Loft belonged mostly to Paige. The more accurately I separated them, the less room she had to call me jealous. At 11:14, Leah finally replied. I still have the file. Paige told me to delete it. My hand stopped over the keyboard. A second message appeared. Can we meet? Not at your parents' house. I typed one word. Yes. Leah chose a co-working cafe across town, the kind with glass booths and people pretending not to listen to each other. She arrived wearing a baseball cap and carrying her laptop under one arm. No makeup. No camera bag. That alone told me this was not going to be one of her polished professional conversations. She sat down across from me. I should have called you Friday. That would have been useful. I know. No excuse came after it. That helped. A little. Leah opened the laptop, but didn't turn it toward me yet. I set up the wide shot because Paige asked me to. For Thanksgiving content? Yes. Before I got there? Yes. That matched what I remembered. Did she tell you to provoke me? No. The answer came quickly enough that I believed she had already decided where her line was. Did she tell you she wanted footage of me? She wanted everybody. She kept saying she wanted it to feel real. I almost laughed. Congratulations to both of you. Leah winced. I deserve that. What happened after I left? I packed up. Your aunt was yelling at your mom. Glenn kept telling everybody to calm down. Paige wanted the footage immediately. How immediately? Before I got home. Did you send the whole file? No, it was huge. She asked me to cut the moment. What moment? Leah looked directly at me. The slap. There it was. Not Thanksgiving. Not the argument. Not the insult. The slap. What did you send? A short export. Starting where? When you pushed your chair back. Why there? Because Paige told me to start there. Did you tell her what that did to the context? Yes. What did she say? Leah's mouth tightened. She said, It's my Paige. Of course she did. The sentence sounded so much like Paige that I could hear her saying it without needing imagination. What about the original? She texted me the next afternoon and said to delete it. She said everybody was upset, and there was no reason to keep private footage. But you kept it. I archive client files for 90 days unless there's a reason not to. So you treated Thanksgiving like client work. I treated Paige like client work. That was probably smarter than anything I had done with her for years. Leah rotated the laptop. Before you watch it, I need to say something. Go ahead. I knew the clip she posted made you look worse. Worse? Like there was no reason for what happened. There wasn't no reason. I know. Then say exactly what you mean. Her gaze dropped for a second. I knew the edit removed what she said to you. That was better. Not comfortable. Better. And you let her post it. Yes. Why? Because she was paying me for content work, because everybody was screaming, because I told myself it wasn't my fight. The old phrase, not my fight. People loved that sentence when someone else was paying the bill. You were wrong, I said. I know. Good. Show me the file. She pressed play. The camera had been placed farther back than I remembered. The entire end of the table was visible. So was the trash can. Dinner chatter filled the first few seconds. Then Paige's voice. Clear. That's where beggars like you belong. The laughter sounded worse through speakers. Less like a memory. More like evidence of a room making a choice. Mom's smirk was visible. Dad looked down before saying, Natalie, don't start. You always find a way to ruin dinner. Then, my chair moved. I crossed the frame. The slap happened fast. Paige dropped beside the chair. My voice came next. Anyone else? Leah paused the video. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing noble about the footage. Nothing clean. It showed exactly what happened. That was enough. Back up, I said. To what? Before the insult. She rewound. Paige was adjusting her napkin. Mom was talking to somebody off camera. Then Paige glanced toward Leah. Can you keep the camera wide? Leah's voice came from behind the phone. Why? I want everybody in it. That proves nothing, I said. Leah looked at me. I didn't say it did. Good. Because Paige caring about framing was not the same as Paige planning every second that came after. I wasn't going to turn suspicion into fact because it made a better story. Send me the original, I said, and the texts where she asked for the edit and deletion. Leah hesitated. Are you posting all of this? No. Then what are you doing? Separating two problems. Her eyebrows pulled together. The video is one problem. My work is another. You think they're connected. They are connected. That sounds like one problem. No. The clip can prove she cut context. It cannot prove who designed Alder and Finch. Leah leaned back. Something in her expression shifted. You've been doing this all weekend, haven't you? Doing what? Building the version nobody can argue with. I closed the laptop halfway. People can argue with anything. Then I tapped the lid. But they have a harder time arguing with dates. Before leaving, Leah emailed me the original file, her export, and screenshots of Paige's instructions. One message from Paige read, "Start when Nat gets up. Nobody needs the whole ugly dinner." The next day, "Delete the raw. Mom doesn't want it floating around." That was useful. It was not everything. Back home, 2 folders became 4. The first contained the Thanksgiving material. Original footage. Published clip. Upload time. Paige's caption. Leah's messages. Nothing about interior design. The second held project material. Trevisan files. Client approvals. Rena's releases. Paige's old emails. Nothing about the slap. Keeping them apart made my head clearer. Paige wanted one giant emotional mess. Jealousy. Violence. Sisterhood. Business. Resentment. If she could mix everything together, she could make every fact sound like a feeling. So I refused to mix them. Around 4 that afternoon, my phone buzzed. Paige. Not the group chat. Directly. "Come talk to me without your spreadsheets." I stared at the message. Then typed. "Where?" "Her apartment. 6:30. No parents. No cameras," she promised. The promise almost made me laugh. Still, I went. Not because Paige summoned me. Because I wanted to hear what she said when she could not hide behind Mom, Dad, or 600,000 strangers. Her apartment looked exactly like her videos. Soft lighting. Neutral fabrics. A bowl of lemons nobody actually ate. Paige opened the door, wearing sweatpants and no earrings. For once, she looked like my sister before she looked like Paige Mercer. "You came. You asked?" She stepped aside. "No hug." "Good." A glass of water waited on the coffee table. I left it there. Paige sat on the sofa. "Can we just talk?" "That depends what talking means." "There. That." "What?" "You always make everything sound hostile." "I came here." She looked away. For several seconds, the only sound was the air vent. Then she said, "I'm sorry I called you a beggar." The sentence landed harder than I expected. Not because it fixed anything. Because some ugly little part of me had wanted to hear it. "Why did you say it?" I was angry. "At what?" "At you." Very specific. She blew out a breath. "You were doing that thing at dinner." "What thing?" Questioning everything I said. I asked which projects you meant. "Exactly. That's a question. To you." A humorless laugh escaped me. "You're going to have to do better than that." Paige rubbed both hands over her face. "I felt like you were sitting there waiting for me to slip." "Were you?" Her hands dropped. "What?" "Slipping." "No." "Then why does asking which projects count as an attack?" Her mouth flattened. "You've always needed people to know you're the smartest person in the room. And you've always needed people not to ask who did the work. That is not fair." "Alder and Finch." She looked at me. "Northline Wellness." "Nothing. Hearth and Harbor asked you about those before Thanksgiving." Her face changed by a fraction. "That was enough." "So they did," I said. "This is exactly why I wanted to talk." "Good. Talk." Paige stood and paced toward the windows. "The campaign is in review." "I know. They're questioning everything. They should question specific claims." "Do you hear yourself?" "Yes. You sound happy." "I sound accurate." She turned. "I could lose this." "You could." The answer hit her. I saw it. She had expected me to soften the sentence. I didn't. "What do you want?" Paige asked. My work credited accurately. That's it? And no use of my name to imply I endorse things I didn't. So if I fix that, you stop? Stop what? Trying to destroy me. You keep using that phrase like I created the problem. You contacted the brand. They contacted people about rights before Thanksgiving. She crossed her arms. Because they're paranoid about things you represented to them. We collaborated. On Mercer Kitchen, yes. On more than that. Name them. You helped me constantly. That's not the same sentence. Paige stared at me. Then her voice dropped. Fine. We can fix this. How? I take the Thanksgiving clip down. That should happen anyway. I post that things got out of hand. Things? You know what I mean. No, Paige. I've learned not to assume. Her jaw tightened. I say we were both emotional. No. You hit me. And you can say exactly what happened before that. She looked away again. There it was. Even privately. The full sentence cost her too much. What do you want from me? She asked. The truth. I'm offering you a way out. From what? All of this. She reached for her phone but did not unlock it. We put out something together. We say we've always collaborated creatively. That there was confusion about old projects. I fixed the credits. You stopped contacting people. The room seemed to narrow. There it was. The deal. Not money. Not a threat. Something much smarter. A door back to being sisters. All I had to do was make the truth blurry enough for Paige to fit inside it. We've always collaborated creatively, I repeated. Yes. On Alder and Finch? You gave me ideas. That wasn't my question. You want me to say you did everything. No. I want you to say what you did. Paige's eyes flashed. You designed a workplace. I made people care about it. That's not design authorship. It matters. It does. So call it what it is. She laughed once. You really would rather have your name than your sister. That hurt. Which was why I made myself answer slowly. If keeping a sister requires me to lie about my own work, I don't have one. Her face went blank. For a second, she looked younger than 31. Then the influencer came back. The chin lifted. The shoulders straightened. You think files matter more than what people believe. Standing, I reached for my bag. We're about to find out. Mom came to my apartment the following evening carrying pumpkin bread. She had made that bread every November since I was a kid. The smell hit before I even opened the door fully. Cinnamon. Nutmeg. Butter. Home. If home had ever been simple. I'm not discussing Paige's campaign, I said. Mom held up the loaf. I brought bread. That doesn't answer me. I'm your mother, Natalie. That also doesn't answer me. Her expression softened. Or maybe I wanted it to. I miss my girls. Against my better judgment, I let her in. For 20 minutes, she did not mention Hearth and Harbor. She talked about Dad forgetting where he put the carving knife, about the neighbor's dog digging under the fence, about Paige at 8 years old refusing to sleep alone after a thunderstorm. That memory got me. Paige used to run into my room dragging a blanket behind her. She would climb onto the floor because she knew I hated sharing the bed and say, "Don't tell Mom." I never did. Mom smiled. She always felt safer with you. My throat tightened. Yeah, she still does. That should have been the end of the sentence. It wasn't. Mom folded her hands. If you could just tell the brand you two worked together. I stood. Her eyes widened. Natalie. No. Please listen. I did. You're throwing away a relationship over wording. No. You brought pumpkin bread into my home to negotiate Paige's business. That is not what this is. Then leave the campaign outside. I'm trying to save both of you. From what? Accurate credits? Mom's face hardened. You enjoy being difficult. Maybe. The answer stopped her. Usually I defended myself against that label. Not anymore. She stood and grabbed her purse. You're going to regret making everything so final. Maybe. Another surprise. But this is still my home. You can come here as my mother. You cannot bring Paige's business through my door again. Mom picked up the pumpkin bread. I looked at it. Leave that. Her hand paused. Why? Because I like it. Something complicated crossed her face. Then she set the loaf down and walked out. I did not throw it away. Loving the bread did not mean signing the statement. By morning, Paige had made her next move. A video. Longer this time. No Thanksgiving footage at first. Just her sitting in her studio. Eyes glossy. Voice controlled. She talked about jealousy. How hard it was when people closest to you could not celebrate your success. How private misunderstandings were being weaponized against her career. Then came the sentence that changed everything. Every project on my page is mine. I worked for everything I have. A montage began behind her. I almost closed the app. Then the first image appeared. Hartford Loft. Pages. Fine. Next. Mercer Kitchen. Shared. Next. Alder and Finch. Mine through Northline. Then another. Northline Wellness. Mine through Northline. I sat up. The montage kept moving. 2 projects I recognized as genuinely hers. One I had advised on lightly. Another I had never realized she was using commercially. I rewound. Paused. Took screenshots. Again. Pause. Screenshot. Again. By the time the video ended, Paige had done something far more useful than confess. She had made specific claims. Publicly. About specific work. That could be checked. I called Rena. Are you free? What happened? Paige just published her own project list. That sounds bad. For her? A pause. I'm starting to learn that tone. One image in the montage was Northline Wellness from an angle Rena had shot. Another appeared to be from a project Rena had not photographed. I opened my archive. The new image belonged to a smaller workplace renovation Paige had attended during an opening event. I had not known she was using it. Not until she showed me herself. By noon, my second folder had become much cleaner. Not larger for the sake of being larger. Cleaner. I sent Hearth and Harbor a short note. No accusations. No adjectives. Following Paige Mercer's public statement that every project shown on her page is her work, I can verify that several projects in the accompanying montage have different authorship histories. I have source records for the projects in which I was directly involved. I am not asking you to evaluate my family relationship. I am asking you to verify the authorship and usage claims attached to those projects. Then I attached only what supported the projects I could speak for. Rena's release information. Northline documentation I was permitted to provide. Dated project records. Nothing private from Thanksgiving. Nothing about Mom. Nothing about Paige calling me a beggar. That belonged in the other folder. 28 minutes later, Hearth and Harbor replied. Thank you. We are pausing launch materials pending review. We may contact you for clarification regarding specific project attribution. I read the email twice. Paige had spent a week telling the world I was trying to ruin her. For the first time, I had done something that could actually stop her. And I had done it without saying a single word to her audience. The pause lasted less than a day before Hearth and Harbor asked for a review call. Dana's email arrived before 9 the next morning. She wanted me to walk through the projects I had identified, one by one, with someone from Paige's agency on the line. No accusations. No discussion of Thanksgiving unless it directly affected a factual claim. That suited me. I printed nothing. The records were already organized on my laptop, and I had spent too many years watching people wave paper around conference tables as if volume could replace accuracy. At 10:30, Dana appeared on my screen beside a man named Marcus Bell from Paige's agency. Marcus smiled professionally. Natalie, thanks for taking the time. I know this situation has become personal. It started personal, I said. The project records didn't. His smile thinned by half an inch. Dana stepped in. Let's begin with Alder and Finch. Good. No speeches. No morale trial. Just a room. The project image appeared on screen. Dana asked, what was your role? Workplace design lead through Northline. I developed the interior concept, coordinated revisions, carried the client approvals, and worked with the architectural team through final execution. And Paige? She attended the completed space reveal. She helped style accessories for content and filmed social material after the design was finished. Marcus glanced down. She has described that as creative collaboration. On styling the reveal? Yes. Then that description is fair if it says styling the reveal. He looked back up, but not if it says she designed the project? No. Dana switched to Mercer Kitchen. That one? Actual collaboration. Marcus blinked. That seemed to surprise him more than if I had called Paige a liar. I continued. The layout was mine. Several spatial decisions were mine. Paige chose a lot of the finishes, decor, and styling. If she says we collaborated on that kitchen, I agree. Hartford Loft came next. Mostly Paige, I said. She asked me one furniture layout question. I would not claim design authorship. The agency representative shifted in his chair. Then Northline Wellness appeared. Northline Project, I said. I led the interior package. Paige had permission to film the opening for social content. Dana asked, did she develop the curved reception wall? No. Marcus looked up quickly. Nobody had mentioned the wall yet. That caught my attention. Why? I asked. Dana glanced toward him. Marcus said, it came up in Paige's project notes. Then her notes are wrong. Can you support that? Yes. The question did not offend me. It pleased me. I opened the revision folder. The curved wall first appears in revision 3. Paige did not visit the project until after revision 6. Dana asked me to share my screen. I did. File dates. Revision stamps. Client comments. Nothing dramatic. Boring records were underrated. The kind of boring that ruined very exciting lies. Marcus cleared his throat. Creative contribution can happen outside formal project files. Absolutely. So, the absence of Paige from a revision log doesn't necessarily establish she contributed nothing. Correct. That surprised him too. I zoomed out. What establishes her role is the combination of records. Project correspondence. Client attendance. Revision history. Her own messages to me. I'm not claiming she contributed nothing. I'm saying she did not lead the design. Dana leaned toward her camera. That distinction is what we're trying to clarify. Then clarify it project by project. Marcus folded his hands. This sounds, at least in part, like a disagreement over how collaboration is defined. For Mercer Kitchen, yes. And Alder and Finch? No. Northline Wellness? No. Hartford Loft? Mostly hers. The room on my screen went quiet. Then Dana asked the question Paige had created for herself. Why do you think she publicly stated that every project on her page was hers after we had already requested more precise attribution? I can't tell you why she did anything. That mattered too. I can tell you the statement is not accurate. Dana nodded once. No applause. No dramatic realization. Just another note entered into a record Paige could not edit from her phone. By the time the call ended, my hands were steady. My phone was not. It had collected messages for nearly an hour. Mom. Dad. Paige. Mom again. Dad twice. The first one I opened was from Dad. The campaign is frozen. You've proved your point. I called him. That broke my written contact rule, but the rule belonged to me. I could change it when I wanted. He answered immediately. Nat. My point was never to freeze her campaign. Then what are you doing? Correcting the record. She could lose this whole deal. If the deal depends on inaccurate project claims, that's not something I created. Dad exhaled. You always have an answer. Would you prefer I didn't? That's not what I said. No, it's what everybody keeps meaning. He was quiet for a beat. Then he said, you hit her. There it was. Again. The emergency exit every conversation took when the questions got uncomfortable. You heard what she said. I did. The answer stopped me. Not because I had doubted my own memory. Because it was the first time he had said it plainly. You heard her call me a beggar. Yes. You heard her point at the trash. Yes. And you told me I was ruining dinner. A longer pause. I was trying to stop things from getting worse. For whom? Nat. For whom? He did not answer. That was enough. You were trying to manage the person you thought would listen. That's not fair. It's exactly fair. Your sister had been under pressure all week. So had I. You didn't know that then. I didn't need to know anything about her campaign to deserve not being humiliated at your table. Dad went quiet again. A message flashed across the top of my screen while he was still on the line. Paige. You want the full Thanksgiving story? Fine. I almost smiled. Dad, I have to go. What are you going to do? Depends what Paige does next. Nat, please. No. You already got your chance to tell me not to start. I ended the call. Paige posted 10 minutes later. Not the full Thanksgiving story. Another edit. Longer than the first, but still beginning after the insult. This time, she included me asking questions about the campaign earlier at dinner, then cut forward to me standing up. Her caption said the professional accusations had started only after Thanksgiving because I was angry about her success. That was the mistake. Not because she insulted me. Not because she cried on camera. Because she put a false timeline in public. The brand's attribution questions were already dated Tuesday. Thanksgiving had been Thursday. Her own problem existed before my hand ever left my side. I texted Leah. Paige just posted another edited version and claimed the project dispute started after Thanksgiving. I want to use a short continuous section from your original recording showing what happened immediately before the slap. Are you willing to authorize that? Her reply came 7 minutes later. Yes. Use the section from the insult through you leaving the table. Don't crop out anything you did. Good. That was exactly how I wanted it. No flattering edit. No dramatic music. No slow motion. No caption calling Paige evil. The truth did not need production value. Before posting anything, I wrote 4 sentences, then rewrote them until every adjective disappeared. The final version read, Hearth and Harbor requested clarification about project attribution before Thanksgiving. The widely shared Thanksgiving video begins after my sister's statement and after my parents' response to it. Some projects shown in Paige's portfolio are her work, some were collaborations, and several were led by me or my firm. I have provided source records directly to the parties whose projects and rights are involved. Then one final line. You do not have to approve of how I reacted at Thanksgiving to verify who designed a project. Below it, I attach the continuous clip Leah had authorized. The trash can comment. Mom's expression. Dad telling me not to ruin dinner. The laughter. My chair moving. The slap. Anyone else? Everything. If people hated what I did after seeing the whole thing, fine. At least they would be hating something that had actually happened. The shift did not come like a movie. No magical wave of strangers suddenly crowned me right. Some comments still called me violent. Some said Paige deserved it. Some defended my parents. Some accused both of us of using private conflict for attention. That was the internet. But another kind of comment started appearing beneath Paige's posts. Why was the first clip cut? Why did you say the design dispute started after Thanksgiving if the brand was already asking questions? Which projects did you actually lead? Those questions mattered more than sympathy. Questions were expensive for somebody selling certainty. By late afternoon, Paige went live. I did not watch in real time. A coworker sent me the link after it ended. You probably need to see this, she wrote. So I did. Paige sat in her studio beneath the arched floor lamp I had once told her was too large for the room. She looked exhausted. Not ruined. Not defeated. Angry. I'm done letting my sister rewrite my career, she said into the camera. Yes, Nat helped sometimes. Family helps family. That doesn't make her the designer of my life. I almost closed the video. Then she kept talking. Alder and Finch? I was involved. The curved reception wall people keep asking about? That was my idea. My finger froze over the trackpad. She repeated it. My idea. Specificity. Finally, I opened the Alder and Finch archive. Revision 3. Curved wall. Date. Meeting notes. Client come on. Preferred curved reception approach from Nat's concept. Develop further. Paige had not entered the building until weeks later. There were photos from the reveal. Her first visit, after revision 6. I did not post any of that. Instead, I forwarded the relevant record to Dana. One sentence. Paige publicly stated today that she originated the curved reception wall at Alder and Finch. The attached revision history shows the wall in the approved design before her first documented involvement with the project. Send. Then I went back to work. That was the strangest part. My life did not stop because Paige was losing control of hers. A furniture vendor still needed an answer. A client still hated the carpet tile. Someone had specified the wrong acoustic panel in Cincinnati. The world kept demanding ordinary competence. By evening, Dana replied. Received. Please preserve the source record. Nothing more. The next 3 days moved slowly enough to feel real. Alder and Finch's client representative emailed Paige's agency directly after Hearth and Harbor contacted them for verification. Rena sent written confirmation, limiting the advertising use of 2 photographed projects. Northline gave me permission to verify my role on firm-owned work, provided I did not release confidential client material. One disputed project disappeared from Paige's website. Then another changed. The words "designed by Paige Mercer" became "styled and featured by Paige Mercer." Mercer Kitchen changed to "creative collaboration with Natalie Mercer." Hartford Loft stayed exactly where it was, as it should. That was important to me. I did not want Paige erased. I wanted the erasing to stop. Mom apparently saw the changes before she contacted me. Her first message said, "Are you satisfied?" I did not answer. The second arrived 20 minutes later. "People are treating her like a fraud now." Still nothing. Then, "You know she has done real work." "That one," I answered. "Yes. I've said so repeatedly." Mom called. I declined. A voicemail appeared. I did not listen. Not yet. The next morning, Hearth and Harbor requested another call. Dana's voice sounded more tired than before. "We've completed most of the project review. Okay, we have a possible path forward." That sentence made me sit straighter. They were considering restructuring Paige's campaign. Less design authority. More lifestyle and styling. Disputed projects removed. Proper credits added where collaboration had actually happened. In other words, Paige might still keep the deal. Smaller, different, but alive. Dana continued. "There is one issue we need clarified." "What issue?" Paige's agency proposed language stating that you and Paige have collaborated creatively over several years and that previous project descriptions did not always reflect the informal nature of those collaborations. I almost admired it. The sentence was beautiful, smooth, technically broad enough to contain truth, and vague enough to cover everything that had been wrong. "We have collaborated creatively over several years," I said. Dana waited. But not on every project," she claimed. "We understand." "Then why do you need the broad statement?" "To establish context." "For whom?" "For the campaign." There it was. Not a lie, exactly. Something more dangerous. A true sentence being used to blur several false ones. Dana said, "If you're comfortable confirming the general collaboration history, we can address individual credits internally." "No." The word came out before she finished. A pause. "You're not comfortable confirming you collaborated?" "I'm happy to confirm it project by project." "That makes the public language more complicated." "Yes, Natalie, we are trying to find a solution that doesn't unnecessarily damage anyone." "So am I." Dana waited. I opened my matrix. Mercer Kitchen, collaboration. Hartford Loft, Paige. Alder and Finch, me and Northline, with Paige styling the reveal. Northline Wellness. Me and Northline, with Paige creating social content afterward. Use those sentences. That level of detail may not be appropriate for campaign messaging. Then don't use my name in the campaign messaging. Another pause. If we describe a long creative relationship without implying endorsement? No. Why? Because that is exactly how this got blurry in the first place. Dana did not argue. So I continued. "I'm not asking you to punish Paige. I'm telling you what I will not certify." The words felt different once they were out. Not angry. Not defensive. Final. If you can run a campaign based on the work she actually did, that's your decision. If you need me to turn several different histories into one soft sentence so the campaign still works, I'm not doing that. Dana thanked me. The call ended. For 10 minutes, I sat at my desk staring at nothing. That had been the easiest door back. One sentence. Not even a complete lie. A little blur. Enough for Paige to keep her deal. Enough for Mom to say I had finally stopped being difficult. Enough for Dad to call it compromise. Maybe enough for Christmas. My phone sat beside the keyboard. No messages. For once, nobody knew what I had just chosen. That made it feel more mine. The decision from Hearth and Harbor came 2 days later. The existing campaign would not proceed. Their notice was careful. The planned concept depended too heavily on project representations and usage permissions they could no longer verify in the form originally contracted. They would not launch the national campaign. No language about scandal. No declaration that Paige was a fraud. No victory speech. Just a business deciding it could not safely sell the story it had purchased. Paige's agency made its own announcement privately to the parties involved. Her current representation agreement would run through its remaining term. They would not renew it. 2 upcoming brand conversations were placed on hold while Paige revised her portfolio. 4 portfolio items changed over the next week. 2 removed. 1 corrected. 1 properly labeled as collaboration. Her account stayed up. Her followers did not disappear. Paige was still Paige. Still funny on camera. Still good at styling. Still capable of building something real if she ever decided real was enough. But the ladder she had been climbing had lost several rungs at once. Mom's message came first. "Your sister is losing everything. Are you happy now?" My thumbs moved. "She lost what she built on my name." I stared at the sentence, then deleted it, not because it was false, because I was tired of every truth becoming another invitation to fight. Instead, I typed, "Do not contact my employer, my clients, or anyone connected to my work about Paige again." Send. Dad wrote an hour later. I wish this had ended differently. I believed him. That did not make it my job to rewrite the ending for him. Paige said nothing all day. Nothing the next morning. By evening, the quiet felt almost unnatural. Then a voice message appeared. 23 seconds. I put my phone on the kitchen counter and played it once. Her voice sounded smaller without a camera attached to it. Was there really nothing I could have said to make you stop? No accusation followed. No mention of Mom. No demand that I fix anything. Just the question. My finger hovered over the message. For the first time in as long as I could remember, Paige was not asking me to rescue her from a consequence. She was asking whether she still had access to me. I didn't answer Paige's voice message that night. Not because I had nothing to say. Because every answer that came to mind sounded like one more version of the argument we had been having since Thanksgiving. Yes, there were things she could have said. Yes, there had been moments when she could have stopped. No, I wasn't going to hand her a sentence that turned consequences into something I had chosen for her. So the message stayed there. 23 seconds. Unanswered. 3 months later, it was still there. By then, Hearth and Harbor had formally ended the campaign. The portion of Paige's advance tied to work that had never been delivered was returned under the contract. Her agency finished the term it already owed her, then declined to renew. No dramatic announcement. No industry-wide blacklist. No mob of sponsors denouncing her. Reality was less theatrical and, in some ways, harsher. Paige still had her account. Still had hundreds of thousands of followers. Still posted before and after videos. Styling tips, holiday tables, closet makeovers, and enough beige furniture to furnish an airport lounge. But the words around her changed. People asked questions. Who designed this? Was this your project or a collaboration? Who owns the photographs? A year earlier, nobody had asked. That was the damage. Not disappearance. Doubt. 4 projects vanished from her portfolio entirely. Another was relabeled. Mercer Kitchen became Creative Collaboration with Natalie Mercer. Hartford Loft stayed hers. Exactly as it should. Rena mentioned the changes over lunch one afternoon. She cut her studio assistant down to part-time. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. How do you know? The assistant shoots with a photographer I know. That sounds dangerously close to gossip. It is gossip. Then stop. Rena smiled. You asked me not to give you updates unless they affected your work. Correct. This doesn't. Then why are you telling me? Because you're pretending you don't care. That irritated me enough that I stabbed the salad harder than necessary. I care. I know. I just don't want caring to become a job. The smile left her face. That sounds healthier. Don't ruin it by complimenting me. She laughed. My phone rang before lunch ended. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then the preview showed the first line of a voicemail transcription before the call even stopped. Natalie, it's Mom. Please don't hang up. Of course. She had found a new number. I let the call go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, a text arrived. Paige may have to give up the studio. Then, she can't keep paying for everything with the brands pulling back. Then, are you really going to let this happen? Rena saw my face. Problem. My mother has discovered another phone number. That sounds expensive. She says Paige may lose the studio. Rena waited. I put the phone face down. There was a time when that sentence would have pulled me out of the chair before I finished eating. Paige needs help. Paige is struggling. Paige made a mistake. You're stronger. You can afford it. You can fix it. Different words. Same assignment. This time, I finished lunch. Mom showed up at my apartment that Saturday with Dad. No pumpkin bread. No casserole. No pretense that this was social. I opened the door but did not step aside. Mom looked past me into the apartment. Can we come in? What is this about? You know what it's about. Then say it. Dad rubbed the side of his neck. Nat, maybe we should talk somewhere. We are somewhere. Mom's lips tightened. Paige's studio lease is coming up. That sounds like Paige's decision. She can't keep it if her income keeps dropping. Then she shouldn't keep it. Mom stared at me. You say that like you don't care. I say it like studios cost money. You could fix some of this. There it was. The assignment. What exactly do you want me to do? Mom took a breath. One post. No. You didn't even hear me. I heard enough. Dad lifted one hand. Let her finish. Mom looked almost grateful for the support. You could say the whole thing got out of hand. That you and Paige have worked together for years. Maybe do one small collaboration. Something simple. Show people you two are fine. We're not fine. You don't have to say that. That would be the problem. Mom's voice sharpened. You got your name back. The sentence hit harder than I expected. I looked at her. My name was never hers to give back. That is not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. Dad shifted. Nat. No. I want to hear this. Mom crossed her arms. How much is enough? What? How long does she have to suffer before you stop? My hand tightened around the edge of the door. This isn't punishment. It looks like punishment. I'm not calling her brands. I'm not posting about her. I'm not campaigning against her. I'm simply not lending her my credibility anymore. That's the same thing when everyone knows you're the reason this happened. No. Paige's claims are the reason it happened. Mom laughed without humor. There it is. Always the lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. You know what I mean. I usually do. That's been part of the problem. Dad sighed. Nat, nobody is asking you to lie. Yes, you are. We're asking you to acknowledge that you helped each other. I already have. Project by project. Mom shook her head. You could make this easier. For Paige. For everyone. There was the word she always used when she meant me. Everyone. Everyone needed peace. Everyone needed Thanksgiving to be pleasant. Everyone needed Paige to feel supported. Everyone somehow ended where I started giving something up. Mom stepped closer. If you keep this up, don't expect Thanksgiving invitations. The old version of me would have answered immediately. Something sharp. Something designed to make her regret the sentence before it finished leaving her mouth. Instead, I felt the hurt land. Let it land. Then said, okay. Her face changed. What? Okay. You're fine with that. No. That stopped her. I'll miss Thanksgiving. I'll miss Dad. I'll miss some people who'll be there. I may even miss you. Mom stared at me. But I'm not trading my name for a chair. Nobody spoke. Dad finally said, maybe we should go. Mom turned away first. She walked toward the parking lot without looking back. Dad followed. I closed the door. Then, opened it again. He had stopped near his car. For half a second, the scene looked too much like that Thanksgiving night. Me leaving. Nobody following. Only now I was the one standing in the doorway. Dad turned around. Our eyes met. Then he walked back. Not fast. Not dramatically. Just an older man crossing a parking lot toward his daughter. I heard what Paige said that night, he said. We already established that. I know. Then why are you saying it again? Because I've been thinking about what you asked. I waited. He looked down at the pavement. You asked who I was trying to calm down. Yes. You. That wasn't hard to figure out. I thought you could take it. Something in my chest tightened. Of course. The compliment with teeth. You've always been the one who could take it, he continued. You got angry, but you came back. Paige would fall apart. So you corrected me. Yes, because it was easier. His mouth moved before words came. Yes. A laugh almost escaped me. Not because it was funny, because 20 years of family behavior had just been reduced to one ordinary word. Easier. Dad rubbed his palms against his coat. I should have stopped her before you had to. He did not say he approved of what I did. I did not need him to. You still think I shouldn't have slapped her? I do. You're allowed not to like it. He looked surprised. I'm not asking you to rewrite what happened. That's new. For both of us. The corner of his mouth moved. Barely. Then, disappeared. I'm sorry I made you pay for keeping the peace. That was closer to the truth than any apology I had expected from him. Not enough to erase anything. Enough to hear. If you want to see me, I said, call because you want to see me, not because Mom needs a messenger, not because Paige needs a favor. Dad nodded. And if I mess that up, I'll tell you. I believe that. You should. This time he smiled. A real one. He started back toward the car. Dad. He turned. I'm not coming for Thanksgiving. His face tightened. I figured. That doesn't mean I don't love you. I know. For once, that was enough. Paige contacted me a week later. No voice message. No public statement. Just coffee? No cameras. No mom. No business ask. I stared at it for nearly an hour. Then agreed. Neutral place. Middle of the afternoon. The woman who walked into the cafe looked less polished than the one from her videos, but she wasn't ruined. That mattered. A navy sweater. Jeans. Hair pulled back. No dramatic collapse. No makeup running down her face. Just Paige. She sat across from me and wrapped both hands around a coffee she barely touched. You never answered me. The voice message? Yes. I know. Her gaze dropped. Was there really nothing I could have said? There was. She looked up. You could have said my name when it still mattered. Her jaw tightened. I said I was sorry. For Thanksgiving. I was sorry. I believe you. That seemed to throw her off. So what else do you want? There it is. What? You still think this is something I'm demanding from you? Well, what do you call it? Consequences. She looked toward the window. I lost the Hearth and Harbor deal. Yes. My agency dropped me. They didn't renew. Same difference. No, it isn't. She gave me a tired look. Still correcting everything. Still making everything vague. That got the smallest laugh out of her. Then she looked down. I stopped knowing where the line was. The sentence was quieter than anything Paige had said to me in months. I waited. She continued. At first, you helped me. Then, people started asking how I did things. It sounded stupid to say my sister fixed the layout, or my sister picked the lighting, or my sister knew the vendor. So you stopped saying it. Yes. And then? Then people assumed more. And you let them. Yes. No defense. No, but that made the admission heavier. I did work too, she said. I know. You always say that. Because it's true. Her eyes came back to mine. Then why does it feel like you wanted everyone to think I did nothing? Because you spent years making them think I did. That landed. She did not argue. After a while, she asked, can we ever be sisters again? The question hurt more than the insults had. Because I wanted to say yes. Not today. Not soon. But yes. I wanted the little girl dragging a blanket into my room during thunderstorms. I wanted Thai food on the floor. I wanted the sister who used to call me when she couldn't decide between two lamps, before help became authorship and affection became leverage. Wanting something did not make it safe. Not like before, I said. Her face tightened. What does that mean? It means I don't know yet. That's it? That's what I have. She looked disappointed. I let her. Then added, not while I'm still something you need to borrow. Paige looked down at her coffee. When she left, she did not ask me to fix the studio. She did not ask me to post anything. She did not ask me to call Hearth and Harbor. That was not redemption. But it was different. 8 months after Thanksgiving, Northline asked me to speak on a regional design panel about workplace renovations. No viral redemption story. No headline about my sister. Just work. The event was held in a hotel ballroom that smelled faintly of coffee and new carpet. Rena photographed it. Before my segment, I stood behind the curtain watching the presentation screen. Alder and Finch appeared. The curved reception wall filled the image. Beneath it, Northline Workplace Studio. Design lead, Natalie Mercer. Photography, Rena Shah. Nothing was missing. The moderator stepped toward the microphone. Our next speaker is Natalie Mercer, whose workplace projects many of you have probably seen more often than you realized. Applause rose. For a second, I stayed behind the curtain. Not because I was afraid. Because something about hearing my full name next to my own work reached a place in me I had spent years pretending did not exist. Then I walked out. Nobody asked about Thanksgiving. Nobody asked about Paige. They asked why the reception wall curved, how the layout improved traffic, why I had changed the lighting grid, how we balanced privacy and collaboration. Questions about the work itself. I answered every one. Almost a year after the slap, Thanksgiving came around again. No invitation arrived from Mom. Dad texted the week before. I'm going there. I know you're not. Dinner next Sunday? No agenda. I answered, yes. That year, I hosted 7 people in my apartment. Rena, Leah, 2 co-workers, a neighbor from downstairs, Claire and her husband. Nobody filmed anything. Leah brought dessert and stood in my kitchen holding an empty paper bag. Where's the trash? The words hit the room. She realized it half a second too late. Her eyes widened. Oh God. I looked at the stainless steel can under the counter. Then at the table. Anywhere but my chair. Rena snorted first. Then Leah laughed. Then everybody else did. With me. Not at me. The difference was enormous. My phone lit up during dessert. Dad. Happy Thanksgiving. No agenda. Love you. Underneath it, another message. Mom, Paige is having a hard day. For a moment, the old instinct returned. Call. Check. Fix. Then I remembered Paige sitting across from me months earlier, admitting she had stopped seeing the line. Some lines only stayed visible if you stopped stepping over them yourself. I replied to Dad. Happy Thanksgiving. Love you too. Mom's message stayed unanswered. Not forever. Maybe not. But that night belonged to me. After everyone left, I loaded the dishwasher and wiped down the table. The apartment felt pleasantly wrecked. Crumbs, half a pea, wine glasses drying upside down. No staged centerpiece. No camera. No chair anybody had assigned me. On my desk waited a presentation board for a new project. I sat down, reviewed the latest changes, and wrote the revision note in the corner. Then my signature beneath it. Natalie Mercer, design lead. The phone buzzed once from the kitchen. I did not get up to check. Not because I had stopped loving them. I still did. I just stopped letting love erase my name.